Okay, so now we're going to do the third question of this episode. And the third question is the best HBO TV show of all time. Joe, you're first.
All right, and I'm going to qualify my answer with the fact that I have never watched The Wire all the way through, made it through one season, and same with Sopranos. So if the lockdown goes long enough, my answer might change. I don't know, but right now I'm going to go with Watchmen. And the reason is because I am not a comic book guy, but I saw the movie, and my brother is, and of course had all these nerdy reasons why it was horrible and all this kind of stuff. Uh, but the series on HBO was done by the same guy who ran Lost, and if you remember Lost, it was a pretty disappointing final season. And I kind of think he learned from that, and it just seems like it's a real topical story because you've got for example, the Tulsa massacre that starts the entire series out, which I didn't even know that was even a real thing. And so I learned about that. But it's about white supremacy and policing and race. And the cops were even wearing masks, which seems like strange, weird uh, current right now. And uh, you've got Lou Gossett, and you've got Tim Blake Nelson and Jeremy Irons and Regina King, who killed it, and Dr. Manhattan. And it's a great example of taking something that um, was was kind of already out there in the popular culture and not doing a sequel or an homage to the original, but making it more than what it was. And the best part about it is it's basically going to be a one-off. They pretty much said that they're not going to. They may do another one. Who knows? You throw enough money at somebody, they do. But they basically said that it's a one-shot thing, and I like that it was just self-contained. So there you go.
Okay, I'm gonna go first. Uh, First things first. Shout out to Joe's brother. He runs one a very very funny company. What's it called again, Joe? Laugh.
Funhouse Lounge.
House Lounge.
Yeah.
I've been to a couple shows. I watched Die Hard, Die Hard of the musical parody. I watched Pulp Fiction musical parody, and they both were hilarious. If when this quarantine's over and you can go see one of his shows, please do. I'm a big comic book nerd. I love DC. I love Marvel. I love Watchmen, the movie. Like I said, I think Watchmen the movie is one of the most underrated comic book movies of all time. With that being said, Watchmen was not the best HBO show ever. And only because here's the thing: if Watchmen came on like on a different, like a channel that would let you push the boundaries, like FX or Stars, or I'm serious. Like it will if it came on different, like HBO has so many different high tier shows that I can't.
That's exactly why they wanted to launch it on that platform, though.
I know, but to call it the best, though,
to bring down the average.
It's not a bad. It wasn't a bad show at all. But to call it the best and only have like one season, I think. I just can't put it up there with you know. But everybody should go watch it though. It's fucking amazing. However, I can't put it up there as the best at all. Evan.
All right. So for anyone who watched the top 50 from Mad Poker, I like to preface a couple things with some stats. So let me throw this out there for you right now. I watched 2 episodes of The Watchmen because it lost me really quick. The best thing about The Watchmen TV show was Regina King. Without that, the show would be utterly unwatchable in my opinion. Out of the 4 shows that are about to be named, it has the second lowest overall rating on IMDb. Now, IMDb isn't the greatest determiner of how good or bad a show is, but I use IMDb as my encyclopedia for movies because it tells me a lot of things I want to know. I just think with the one season, it's not going to be good enough to be considered one of the best all time. I think it needed maybe another 2 or 3, like maybe 2 seasons more to be considered one of the best, because I just think that they leave, from what I've heard about the ending, they leave a lot kind of room for expansion, and it's hard for me to say that a show is going to be the best of all time when it only had a 9-episode season, whereas Chernobyl, which was another really good HBO show, had 6 episodes and blew it out of the water ratings-wise. So just it's hard for me to agree or disagree with anything being the best ever when there's not enough backlog of a story for it. So with that being said, I will also piggyback off what Dre said. I think the movie was better, not necessarily because of it was a better quality. I just like the cast better. I think it was a better cast, but it also was a movie, so there is a little bit more budget for it. But I just feel like it is, out of the 4 shows on here, ratings-wise, it's the 3rd. In my opinion, it's the 4th.
All right.
It's like that girl you had one time, though, the one-night stand, and you think about it the rest of your life. If you'd have gotten with her, you'd have found out all the horrible things you didn't want to know about her.
That's not, hey, you are not wrong in this life. You are not wrong in this life.
All right, CJ, it's on you.
Yeah. Watching.
What
the fuck was I watching? Like, all right. Yeah. All right. The vigilantes got masks on hide identity. Cool. Why the fuck the cops got masks on the high day identity? That fucked me up so bad. Like,
Boy,
really? I really don't. I know. I can't. I can't look. I can't see the fucking face of the cop. Why he beat my ass for standing at the bus stop on a Friday? Like, no, that's not right. I should be able to see him. Like, no, it's just the whole thing was just, it was a little too confusing. Like, I got lost. Yeah. And I love shit like that. Like the watching the movie. I love that movie. But at the show, I couldn't get into it. I got like 1 episode deep, and I tried to start the second one, and I just couldn't do it. It reminds me too much of what's going on right now. It's like an overpowered Rona trip. I couldn't do it.
So one thing I've learned, I've listened to a lot of podcasts in my time, and I listened to the Ringer podcast with Bill Simmons, and he always has something about, at the end of his, can the show be made into a 10-part miniseries? And I would have initially said that The Watchmen, the movie, could have been made into a 10-part miniseries, but now that they've done a TV show, I kind of wish the TV show hadn't existed, because I don't want the TV show to bring down the legacy of how underrated and how well the movie was. But with that being said, that's The Watchmen.
Yeah.
So period of The Watchmen. Again, I just want to say, period, that I didn't think The Watchmen, the show, was that bad, me personally. However, we have to go against every last single HBO show that ever existed, and then you have to go against, like, you have to compare yourself against Big Brother, which is the movie. It's just catching the bad rap right now. Just me personally. All right, CJ, you next.
All right. I think one of the best, or the best fucking HBO show there was is The Newsroom. For anybody that doesn't know, it's an Emmy award-winning TV show about an anchorman who's fed up about like how irritating, irresponsible most news broadcasters were being with the news, and he and his new team decided to start delivering the news in a more ethical way. Delivering like straight truth without any bias from any corporations or for any politicians or anything, and they caught a lot of flagging, a lot of and there's about a lot of backlash for it. But like the whole thing, they actually do it like kind of in real time, like things that are going on in the real world. They're actually like reporting on it as if they were a real news station, and it's just amazing how they the things they go through and like how they actually portray all these things that are really going on in the world. And most important thing out of it is, I think it was the first episode has the most honest 3 minutes of TV you will ever see. If you don't watch any of it, I recommend everybody at least watch that first episode to see that. It'll change the way you think about this country. All right. That's my.
All right, Joe.
Okay, here's my beef with Newsroom. I really want to like Aaron Sorkin because I really liked Sports Night. But whenever I watch the Newsroom, I feel like I'm being lectured to rather than I'm being entertained, which they kind of changed a little bit after the first season. But if you've watched other Aaron Sorkin shows, uh, some of the characters just seem kind of stock. Like Mackenzie is basically Dana Whitaker from Sports Night, or Will is like a nastier Dan Rydell. Like if you haven't seen Sorkin's stuff before, you don't really notice that. But I just the fact that he was doing this and there was stuff he wanted to do with West Wing, and of course he got kicked off of that because the whole drugs and all of that other stuff. But it kept going. But I feel like it could have been less heavy-handed. I do appreciate it as one of maybe the top shows out there for that scene especially, and just for a lot of the things it did. But I feel like if he didn't have such an axe to grind with things that he needed to say, that it could have been more entertaining and not as much like my dad had sat me down and tried to explain politics to me.
All right, so I'm gonna go, CJ. So I'm going to start with some good stuff about it. CJ, you're right, 100% right. If you don't watch anything from the Newsroom, watch the most honest 3 minutes on TV. It's fantastic. So if you don't do anything with the Newsroom, please watch that. Also, the Newsroom has 2 names that people don't realize. Like it has Olivia Mann and Dev Patel. I keep saying his name wrong, but Dev Patel is from Slumdog Millionaire.
Don't disrespect the great Olivia Munn by saying her last name wrong.
M-U-N-N.
Munn.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Dev Patel was on Slumdog Millionaire, and Olivia Munn is a beautiful and a great actor herself. With that being said, the Newsroom was boring as shit to me. It was boring as hell. I'm not gonna lie. I've tried to watch. I tried about 3 episodes, and it's just boring to me. Like extremely. You know what it reminded me of? Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. It reminded me of a broadcast version of House. Like, and for some reason, I from in my head, I seen like if House had to do with TV and not medical stuff, this would be House on HBO. Plus, Jeff Bridges will always go down to me as one of the least funny guy in Dumb and Dumber. So it wasn't that good to me. Go ahead, Evan.
So, in terms of how well this show did on HBO, it got an 8.6, which is the second highest rating out of all the shows on HBO. Again, I personally think it was just made too early. I think this show, it was a show that was filmed in 2012, and I still think if it was released at a later time, maybe 15 to 16, I feel like it would have had more of an impact. Unfortunately, I just think people hate seeing the backside of the news because we don't watch the news for all the shit that goes into making the news. Joe said he was on radio at one point in time. I don't listen to radio to hear all the backstage stuff I listen to the radio to hear the people who are on the air. So for me, pulling the curtain back on something like that, it wasn't good. I acknowledge that there's bullshit in this world, and people have to make changes and they have to up their morals and all that stuff. But I just feel like outside of that first episode, that first little bit that you guys were talking about, there wasn't much there to follow on. And I know I did say that, you know, a 3-season run with a TV show like that would be good. This TV show only had 3 seasons, but it wasn't worth it, in my opinion. That's not, you know, it is what it is. It's a subpar show, and like DeAndre's been saying numerous times, there's so many A-tier shows on HBO that it's basically a little piece of krill floating in the ocean waiting for a whale to eat it up.
So I'm gonna go next, and it was super hard to answer this question because we're going to debate Evans next, and that's my go-to. And I wanted to name some shows that was on HBO that was actually pretty good shows. Insecure, The Wire, Oz, Soprano, Boardwalk Empire. Eastbound Down was funny to me. It was. Veep.
Yeah.
Veep. Ballers.
Ballers.
Wait, come on, no. Baller.
Let's be real.
It was cool, but it wasn't top tier.
The first season of Ballers was dope. The second season kind of went and then the most current season is just hot garbage, and it's only being made because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the star, and everyone wants to see him fucking basically kill himself.
They're not making another season. They're done.
No, what I'm saying is the most current season.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But out of all
that shit fizzled out quick.
So out of all the shows I just said, and I have to pick my second favorite show because Evan picked my first one. I have to go with True Blood. True Blood basically is softcore porn with vampires and werewolves.
It's like Twilight meets Pornhub.
That's basically softcore porn with werewolves and vampires and fairies and werepanthers. And you know what? That's all you need. It's HBO. Fuck. That's all you need. You want to be entertained. You want to entertain. Get some mythical creatures, which Evans has a lot of. All right. Show a lot of titties and show people rubbing against each other. You can't see genitalia. It's just like this. and that makes the best show. Period. The only thing I will say is that it was that show was pretty prejudiced against a lot of things. Race, the LGBT community, animals. However, the writing for that show was amazing. The acting was amazing. The softcore porn was amazing. All right. It was just, listen, True Blood was, before Evan's show, was one of the for my family and friends back in Philly. Every Sunday you needed to get home before True Blood came on to watch. And it was just a great, really, really good show to me. All right, Joe, you go first.
You know, I suppose vampires might actually exist, and werewolves perhaps as well. I don't have as much against them as I do against zombies, because I'm pretty sure zombies don't actually exist. But
Trump exists.
I feel like
no, they exist.
Fuck you.
126 Stark. 126 Stark, 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll see them motherfuckers.
Yep. I feel like my dislike of True Blood is kind of caught up in my general dislike for the hell's that other movie series? There's the one that there's zombies or there's vampires or there's, I don't know, it's not Harry
Walking
Potter.
Dead?
It's something. Yeah, Walking Dead, all those things. I want nothing to do with any of that, and I don't watch horror movies at all because, especially since 2016, real life is scary enough, and I don't need
Wow, that's deep.
anything else.
Getting
Plus-
deep in here.
Plus, you know, we all have our type, and Anna Paquin is just the opposite
Nobody's
of
type.
my type. So
Nobody.
call me fucking shallow. That's it.
I never said Anna Paquin was my type. Okay, she has no she got naked literally every episode, and her titties like this small. I don't like.
It's like a dead heat between her and Lena Dunham. Like that's it. That's it.
Wow.
What about Amy Schumer? Amy Schumer on there too?
Oh, no. Wait.
I like
Don't.
Amy Schumer.
Don't even.
I love Amy Schumer.
12 Angry Men inside Amy
I will
Schumer.
marry her. Yes.
All right, Evans, on you.
Don't get me started.
Okay, so DeAndre, I hate to break this to you. Out of all the shows, and I get that I picked your the one you were going to choose. Out of all your shows, this got the lowest rating out of the 4, out of a 7.8 out of 10 stars. By all means,
IMBD.
it isn't terrible. Okay, let me tell you why True Blood is not great. Anna Paquin, terrible actress. Not the most pretty on screen, apparently. I'm sorry. You know, we don't want to make this a show about body shaming or anything like that. But if you're going to have a high-quality show, there are a lot of actresses who I would pick over Anna Paquin to be the lead of that role. With that being said, DeAndre mentioned Olivia Munn earlier. She is in one of my guilty pleasure movies, which is Magic Mike. Now, True Blood introduced the world to Joe Manganiello. Okay. Joe Manganiello is a crazy motherfucker, and him and Alexander Skarsgård are the only reason I remotely watched True Blood. Not that because I just like them as people, but True Blood, I don't want to watch Twilight fan fiction. I really don't.
Twilight, that was it.
Okay.
Twilight.
I'm sorry. Like, if I'm being honest, it is not a terrible show. But out of these 4, it is the not greatest. That is great English for you right there. It's the not greatest. It did have a very long run. I believe it was 8 seasons? Mm-hmm. 7 seasons. I'm sorry. 7 seasons. So it's one of the longer seasons on the HBO catalog. And there's just towards the end, it got bad. It was not great towards the end. The last couple seasons were terrible. And this came around at a time when HBO shows weren't the greatest thing in the world. I mean, this ran from 2008 to 2014. And HBO shows didn't really start getting popular until the early part of the 20 teens.
I beg to differ that because
besides two, there are two standout shows.
Sopranos, and you had
There are 2 standout shows before this time that were great. And yes, that is The Wire. Oz was not the greatest. The Wire and The Sopranos, which I'm surprised no one picked The Sopranos. But anyways, go ahead, CJ. I think it's CJ's turn.
CJ's on you.
All right.
True Blood.
Yeah, True Blood. Yeah. Or as I like to call it, Vampires in the Swamp. Like, this whole thing takes place in like a backwater redneck town in Louisiana. This place is so fucking redneck that the gay guy, the black dude, the eccentric motherfucker, and the fucking down home cook, all the same dude. Yeah, it's the same motherfucker. That's it. That's how redneck this place is. Plus the fact this redneck place has its own white trash trailer park, full of fucking sister cousins, uncle daddies. The whole dynamic of the place is just, it kind of made my skin crawl a bit. Especially when they do on a murder spree, everyone's covered in blood. Now, after I go on my murder spree, the first thing I want to do is clean it up. Clean it up. No, these motherfuckers covered in blood. Like, you know what? Let's fuck.
Who needs lube when you have blood?
Exactly. Let's do this. Let's do this. Slap bodies.
All right.
It's just I can't do it.
To my defense, that rating for that's still IMBD. If you're going to Google in the world, that's a higher rating. That's just number 1. All right. Number 2, for Lafayette, who was the gay cook, was actually one of the best characters on that show. He was a thug.
Oh, he was definitely the best character on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a gay
the black gay cook.
Hey, DeAndre,
Yeah.
let me tell you this right here. So, one of the things I looked up when I was doing my research was it was Esquire's top 25 HBO shows of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk shit about IMDb's rating? True Blood was 20th out of 25. Just throwing that out there. Every other, and I'm sorry, Newsroom was never even on it, but it goes to show 7.8 is not a terribly rated show. Kim Kardashian has a worse rating than that. She's still on TV.
That's bad. Don't compare that.
So, okay, I'm not saying it was a terrible rating. It was just the lowest rated of the 4 we chose.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Evan, it's on you.
All right. The best TV show that HBO has ever done, and that is Game of Thrones. I was on the fence between Game of Thrones and Westworld because they are both unique experiences when you're watching them. Personally, for me, Game of Thrones was a show that I watched on a whim. It was like 6 seasons in, and I put on episode 1, and I was like, the fuck is this? And it just pulled me in. Yes, season 8 was terrible. Yes, the writing towards the end got shitty, and they probably should have ended it with season 7. But it is sitting at a 9.3 rating, DeAndre, a 9.3 on IMDb. Okay? Not only that, listen to this. 374 award wins for that show, for everything it does. 602 more nominations that it didn't win. It is one of the most commercially successful TV shows, not only in the history of HBO, of TV. Okay? It had people literally wait a year and 2 months for a finale season. And people still watched it like it never happened. On top of that, it introduced us to Emilia Clarke, who is adorable and got some good old titties. Okay? I can't say more about it. It's got dragons. It's got sex. It's got murder. It's got all that good shit. And it's got Peter Dinklage being 4 foot, whatever the hell Peter Dinklage is, being the most badass person on the character.
Agreed.
So fight with me all you want. There's only one show statistically rated higher than this, and that is The Wire. But no other show on HBO has won more awards. And to me, if you want to be successful, you got to get the awards. 374 awards is nothing to shake a stick at. So y'all can yell at me all you want, but Game of Thrones is the top of the mountain, and everything else is just the steps on the way up.
Okay.
All right, CJ, it's on you.
Yeah. All right. Now, man, what back can you say about a show where they have beheadings, attempted child murder, and multiple scenes of incest on the first episode? Like, yeah, that. Wow. Oh man, no, this show is like really fucked so many first. It's hard to get into it and connect with anybody because every time you start to like a person, like a character, they kill him. Ooh, I like this dude. Oh, he's coming up. Yeah. 2 episodes later, can't. Like, no. It's like, no. This show has hurt me so many times, let me down so many times. It's like, after a while, you're just numb to it. Oh, another one died. You can't do it. Like,
Another one bites the dust.
Yeah. Dragons is cool, but like, man, when you start killing off all the main characters, we don't know who's gonna live, who's gonna die. It's interesting, but at the same time, no, I need I need a hero. I need somebody to follow. I need somebody to connect to. Man, and not just for like 2 episodes.
So
and plus, and the monologues. The monologues, oh my God, they talk so much. They drown on so much.
CJ, you should have been on that show then.
Yeah, no, that's why there's so much nudity in the show. Yeah, every time someone does their monologue, then you got to throw some titties in. Just to bring people back to the show. Yeah. All right.
So I'm gonna go, and it really is hard to say why this is not the best TV show. I mean, everything Evan said was 100% true. However, everything CJ said was 100% true as well. It's funny how like literally everybody dies, right? Outside of the Starks. Right?
Oh no. They was dying too.
Not the kids.
Yeah. No, no. The kids were almost some of the kids died too.
One of the kids.
Remember, there were 7 Starks. There were.
Listen. So
DJ wants to debate this.
The main thing I'm going to say is the reason why. The one thing that people tend to, there wasn't a lot of diversity in Game of Thrones. All of the black guy.
Oh no, they had slaves.
He was a slave.
Oh, shit.
The black guy was a slave, and he cut his dick off. Like Kuta Kinte. Or Kuta Kinte was actually his dick off or his foot. My man here cut his dick off, and then he tried. How you gonna lie to me and say that she wanted to have sex with him when he had no dick? Like he had nothing. It's just straight Barbie and Ken.
My tongue still works, girl.
What that mouth do though?
Right. Like and then so that's the main thing is that it wasn't a lot of, and the only black people in there was slaves.
Whoa, Miss Sandy at the end was not a slave. She was the queen's right-hand woman. Okay. Well, okay, yes, but
she
died by the Donald Trump-looking motherfucker that lived inside fucking the Red Keep.
Killed by Donald Trump-looking guy. See. Anyway, Joe, it's on you.
Okay, I'm going to make an analogy again, if that's okay.
I've been waiting for this one.
Okay. Picture that there's this girl you meet, and you know that you're only going to be able to date her for like one summer. Like you're going to college, she's going to college, or whatever. And the first 2 months.
What's this the movie? What's that?
A lot of movies like that.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's going great. Like she even meets your family. They love her. You like the same movies and everything. But then like a month before it's going to be over, she just starts like staying in bed every morning and says like, "Will you bring me some breakfast when you come back?" And she just stops trying. She mails it in. What are you going to take away from that relationship when it's done, when you think about it later? You're not going to think about like the great couple months you had in the beginning. You're going to think about how she stopped fucking trying at the end. And that's how I think about this. Like they mailed it in for seasons. They were already on other projects. They mailed it in. And I loved that show, but that pissed me off.
No, I agree 100%. The end frustrated everybody. And CJ, let's argue about this real quick. Just so you know, out of all the Starks, the dumb one died because he didn't uphold his promise to Walder Frey, so he got his ass killed with his pregnant wife. The one who didn't know how to run in a fucking zigzag died because the motherfucker didn't know how to run in a zigzag when he threw a fucking arrow at him. The broken one ended up becoming the goddamn king. I don't care if this is a spoiler warning. It's a show that's
Ned Stark died. Ned Stark was a stand-up motherfucker. He was the first.
You're right. The unimportant, non-valuable Starks died. Sansa should have died, whatever. But this show is
I would stop watching the kill Sansa.
Yes, I agree 100% with Joe. They phoned it in at the end. I wish they would have taken – I don't even care if it would have taken 3 years to come up with that final season. If it was worth the final season it was. The only detractor to me was that last season. And even then, I didn't hate the ending of like the last season. It just wasn't great. But that show, and like I said, there's some other shows out there on HBO that, like I said, I'm surprised no one picked Sopranos. I'm surprised no one picked The Wire.
Before this goes off, I do want to say, me personally, I didn't hate the last season.
Me neither. Yeah.
Here's the ice battle was a pretty good battle.
Yeah.
Arya Stark is my favorite character.
The battle for Winterfell was a great fight.
And how she killed the Ice King was amazing. Okay.
Fucking that sneaky shit.
When the last season had a lot of shocking moments because when she told the dragons to kill everybody and they got dragon murked everybody.
Oh, you talking about when Daenerys was like, when she heard the bells and just fucking lost it?
Lost it and said,
but you saw it coming.
Yeah. I did. I knew it was going to happen. I was like,
I was
she's crazy. She done.
I was heartbroken at moments too during that last season, like when Jamie had sex with Brienne and then was like, "Nah, I realized my sister's vag is so much better. I'm gonna go back to her."
Mm-hmm.
That pissed me off because I was like, Brienne is such a good character, and I'm glad Jamie died after that.
And they try to make Jamie and his sister like their death heartfelt.
No, it was deserved.
No, kill them motherfuckers.
It was deserved. I'm not saying it wasn't deserved, but they hold each other and while they die. But, man,
no, they should die by fire at least.
But I do want to thank Game of Thrones for a couple of things. Like I said, it introduced us to Emilia Clarke. Yes. It introduced us to Kit Harington, which I think Kit Harington's a great actor. I just think he needs to get out of the typecasting roles he's put into. It introduced us to a guy named Hafthor, who's the world's strongest man, who played the Mountain. He's about to have a boxing match with Eddie Hall in 2021 and get his ass whooped because Eddie Hall's a fucking solid dude. It introduced us to Pedro Pascal, who played the Viper, who ended up getting killed by the Mountain, but then he went on to be in Narcos, and he's a fantastic fucking actor. It introduced us to a lot of great characters and
Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa. It brought us Aquaman for the most part. Jason Momoa was around, but the first time I think of Jason Momoa, I think of Khal Drogo. Mm-hmm. So, and Missandei, the woman who was with Grey Worm, she ends up going on to be in the Fast and Furious franchise in the later movies. The dude who actually plays Grey Worm, shout out to him, he's actually a musician named Raleigh Ritchie who has some really good fucking music. So Game of Thrones, I think, opened up the world for the Westworlds and for all these new shows that HBO is trying out because it showed how much people would get behind a show when you don't have rules. That's why I think Netflix shows are going to be huge over the next couple of years because when you don't have a major studio telling you, hey, don't do this, don't do that, your creative freedom comes out. And that's what HBO has done over the years. So, like I said, that's why there is no bad shows on any of the shows that we just named, but they're all just better to us for certain reasons.
Yeah. So shout out to HBO because HBO was one of my favorite channels to watch for original content.
Oh, I know. Once that like 10 o'clock cutoff came on and it became HBO After Dark, you was all about it, wasn't you?
What? Hell yeah. What's this to call? Pointopia? Pointopia is amazing. Anyway, however, I do want to go off what you said, Evan, about Netflix because we will be doing the best Netflix show as well of all time.
Oh, that's
there's a lot of choice there because there's a lot of
so
shitty fucking Netflix shows. Oh man.
With that being said, that's our show. I'm DeAndre Robinson.
I'm Evan Hamataki, aka Hamataki40 on Xbox. Quemini 187 is DJ.
I'm Joe Barrett, and I have no online presence whatsoever.
It's your boy CJ, aka Soup Coolers. Yeah.
And thank you for watching.
DeAndre, I feel like out of this equation, CJ is going to be the Burton Guster of this equation, and he's always going to have a different AKA after all of his intros. So let's see how long he keeps it up.